Welcome to the Explainer, everyone. Today we're going to fundamentally rewire how you look at performance, decision-making, and emotional stability in the markets. We are diving deep into the absolute game-changing concepts from Jared Tendler's acclaimed work, The Mental Game of Trading. Look, if you've ever felt like your own mind is the literal roadblock standing between you and consistent profitability, well, you're in exactly the right place. Let's get right into it.
Be honest with yourself for a second. What are your most expensive, most frequently repeated trading errors? Are you struggling with chasing the market the second it takes off without you? Or maybe you're constantly cutting your winners way too early out of panic, or forcing mediocre trades just because you feel like you need to be doing something. Maybe you're just straight up over trading, even though you actually possess really solid technical skills. You've probably tried fixing this, right? Studying more charts, tweaking indicators, refining your entry criteria, but the errors just keep happening. So why is that?
Well, that brings us to this pretty profound idea. If you already have a market edge but can't trade it consistently, the problem isn't what you don't know. It's a bug in your mental game system. This comes from Jared Tendler. He's a licensed therapist and a mental game coach who has literally worked with world champion esports athletes, PGA Tour pros, and top-tier financial traders. And what he found is honestly deeply validating for frustrated traders everywhere. If your technical skills are sharp, more technical analysis is not going to fix your psychological bugs. The root of the problem isn't the chart. It's unmanaged issues with greed, fear, anger, or confidence.
To systematically crush these bugs, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the root of trading errors. Second, we'll reframe emotions as signals. Third, we'll break down the four-step mastery system. Fourth, we'll analyze profiles and trading psychology. And finally, reaching the goal state.
All right, part one, the root of trading errors. Let's look at exactly why the traditional fixes usually fall flat.
So here is a massive paradigm shift. The conventional view of trading psychology always tells you that emotions are the enemy. They're problems to be eliminated. You're constantly told to trade like a robot, right? But Tendler's approach argues the exact opposite. Emotions are not the root cause of your trading errors. They are merely signals. They're pointing to underlying problems. Think about that. We have to stop fighting our negative emotions and start treating them as critical data. Once you actually solve the underlying problem, that excessive emotion, it just naturally vanishes.
Moving to section 2, emotions are just signals. Time to debunk some major industry myths.
Take the first big myth we hear all the time, just be more disciplined. Look, simply demanding more discipline from yourself requires pure willpower. And willpower is a finite resource. It's going to completely run dry when market stress hits its peak. True discipline isn't about white-knuckling your way through a trade. It's actually the natural byproduct of uncovering and resolving the hidden psychological flaws that are driving your poor behavior in the first place.
And here's another really common trap. Thinking a lack of confidence is the core problem. The reality? Trying to forcefully manufacture confidence using positive affirmations is virtually useless in trading. Seriously, it doesn't work. Why? Because a lack of confidence is actually just a symptom. It almost always points to a genuine skill gap that you're ignoring, or maybe some incredibly unrealistic expectations you've set for yourself.
Then there's the big one, the myth that greed and fear are the ultimate enemies you need to vanquish. The shocking truth here is that leaning into greed and fear, using them as data points, actually gives you a massive competitive edge. If you suddenly feel your heart racing with fear right before pulling the trigger on a setup, that fear is feeding you data. It might be screaming that your position size is way too large, or that you haven't genuinely accepted the risk of the trade.
To really lock this concept in, Tendler uses this fantastic analogy. Imagine getting a terrible headache at the end of every single trading day. Naturally, you assume it's just the stress of the markets, right? So you pop some painkillers, try to tough it out, but the headaches keep coming back, even on the weekends. Finally, you go get an eye exam, and guess what? You just needed glasses. You see, the headache was just a symptom. Treating that symptom with painkillers guaranteed the actual problem never got fixed. In trading, your emotions are those psychological headaches.
So what does treating emotions as data actually look like in practice? Basically, it means viewing fear, greed, frustration, and even overconfidence as highly valuable intelligence. They point directly to your unconscious thoughts and behavior patterns. In a high-stakes arena like the financial markets, this perspective is a total game changer. It allows you to step back and investigate yourself objectively instead of just beating yourself up for, well, acting like a human.
Which brings us to section 3, the 4-step mastery system for truly mastering your mind.
Tendler's mastery process relies on 4 distinct stages. Step 1 is greater awareness. This is about identifying your specific emotional triggers long before they hijack your brain. Step 2 is uncovering the root cause, finding that hidden psychological flaw that's actually driving the reaction. Step 3 is building control. You need a rock-solid strategy to course-correct your emotions in real time, right in the middle of a trade. And finally, step 4 is resolving and advancing. This means crossing the finish line on a specific issue, so it permanently stops draining your P&L, freeing you up to tackle the next challenge.
To put this into actual practice, specifically for step 2, you need to build what Tendler calls an emotional pattern map. First, identify your triggers. What exact market action sets you off? Next, track the emotion chain. Maybe a sudden market reversal causes confusion, which quickly morphs into anger, which then triggers revenge trading. Third, discover the hidden beliefs. Ask yourself, do you subconsciously believe you deserve to win every single trade? And lastly, map the behavioral consequences, the actual concrete trading errors you make as a result. Writing all this down lets you short-circuit those rising negative emotions before they can dictate your actions.
All right, section 4. Let's look at profiles in trading psychology. Think about your performance as a hierarchy. Down at the bottom, we've got the C level, the emotional trader. This trader is essentially living in a state of chaos, completely controlled by their emotions, which leads to constant self-sabotage. Stepping up a tier, we find the B level, the aware trader. This person is actively working the system. They know their issues, they're highly reflective, and they map their patterns, even if they still occasionally fumble in the heat of the moment. Then, at the very top, is the A level, the master trader. This is the ultimate goal: total emotional intelligence, stability, and flawlessly consistent execution of their edge.
But listen, there is a very specific, very dangerous archetype we absolutely need to call out here: the technical expert's trap. This is the trader who completely overanalyzes charts and indicators and vehemently denies that psychology plays any role whatsoever in their performance. They are on this endless, exhausting hunt for the perfect system or some magical new indicator. The real danger? They're using intellectualization as a shield. They use it to completely avoid dealing with their own emotional dysregulation. Ultimately, this leads to severe analysis paralysis. They think the market is broken, when in reality, it's their mental framework that needs fixing.
Finally, section 5, reaching the goal state and achieving that consistent execution.
The real secret to reaching that A level: building an early warning system. Top institutional and independent traders use this exact concept to intercept disasters. Even before the market opens, you need to check your emotional state. Are you exhausted, anxious? Be honest with yourself. Then, monitor yourself in real time to catch the absolute earliest warning signals from your pattern map. Maybe you start gripping your mouse a little too tightly, or your breathing gets shallow. Afterward, always conduct an honest post-trade review. By treating your own emotional data as valuable market information, you can literally stop a blown account before the trade even happens.
As we wrap up this explainer, let's just circle back to this unforgettable thesis. Emotions are not the problem, they are signals. If you take only one thing away from our breakdown today, let it be this fundamental shift in perspective. Your mind isn't working against you, it's actually desperately trying to hand you the blueprint to your own hidden flaws. So, I'm going to leave you with a lingering, somewhat provocative question to chew on before your next trading session. What are your emotions trying to tell you? The next time you feel that surge of fear, greed, or frustration creeping up while you're staring at the charts, don't suppress it. Map it, study it, and use it to master your mental game. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and we will see you in the next explainer.